MGC does not stand for hazing.
IFC does not stand for hazing.
Panhellenic does not stand for hazing.
NPHC does not stand for hazing.
The numbers are out there. They all seem very interesting, and they're all very flat, and they get right to the point. Hazing continues to be a problem, not only on college campuses, but on high school campuses, and yet there are still hazing incidents every single day. So why can we not stop it? Back to work once again. We're joined now by the author of Preventing Hazing, How Parents, Teachers, and Coaches Can Stop the Violence, Harassment, and Humiliation, noted sports psychologist Susan Lipkin. And joining us also, nationally recognized psychotherapist and expert commentator on relationships and psychological manipulation, Dr. Lisa Brateman. Doctor, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We want to thank you both. Let me start out with you, Susan, because we've talked about this before, but we need to drive this home. If you go onto Google right now, and if you search out hazing, you will find immediately new instances that have happened at major universities. You'll find them that are happening in sports leagues. You'll find them in high school. No matter all these wonderful PSAs we have out there, it still continues to be a massive problem in our educational system. Why are none of these things working in trying to stop it?
I think it's because we really need to change the culture, and the culture actually accepts hazing. Some people may even think that it's part of human nature because hazing has been around since ancient times. I don't agree with you that we have a lot of PSAs about hazing because we really don't. We have bullying, which is very different than hazing. And as you said, it occurs in high school, on teams, in marching bands, and in the military, and even in the workplace. So hazing is part of our culture, and people believe that it proves that you're worthy of being in a group. And the truth is that is a myth that we need to change.
So how do we then, and again, here we go. Let's get right down to the core here. And I'll ask you, Dr. Lipkin, to hold on a moment because you've posed this question here. So let me get to Dr. Brateman. How do we then get down into that culture? Because this speaks to psychological manipulation. That's exactly what hazing is in so many ways. How do you stop it from happening when everybody seems to think it's no big deal, it's fun, and it's all just a rite of passage?
It's really about starting with the family, starting before your kids get to the stage where that isn't even an option. It's teaching kids very early on what their moral values are. Where do they stand on this? Because the less they know about themselves, or the bigger part of they want to be part of something else, they're more vulnerable to it. So it's teaching them early what is right and what is wrong, and not to go against their own morals and values.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because what you're saying is exactly right, and we've heard a number of experts say this, but I want to ask you this. This has now been going on, and again, we hear the same thing. Why is it not sinking in, I guess, is the big thing. Look, I'm not a parent, but I tend to think if somebody came to me and told me that my kid was involved in something like this, I would take immediate action, not only against the kid, but against the school and anybody else who was involved here. Yet it seems that we don't have those parents taking that kind of action. We don't have administrators doing it. We don't have educators doing it. So how do we then drill down to the core here and get somebody to understand that this is ridiculous, it's hateful, it's hurtful, and it can kill somebody?
It does kill people. A lot of people die from hazing.
I'll tell you what, Dr. Lipkin, hold on one second here. Dr. Brateman, you first, please.
Yes, all of those pieces need to be put together at an early age, early intervention on this, because it's become normal. Because, as you said, it was acceptable at a certain point, but it's no longer acceptable, and it never should have been acceptable, and it needs to start young. Whether it's starting with bullying in school, this is just what happens as one gets older and they get more control and more power. It has to be an intervention way before a kid gets to high school.
Dr. Lipkin, your take?
I don't agree at all. I'm sorry to say that. I really make a distinction between bullying and hazing. Bullying begins with kids. We see it as young as 3. But hazing is a group activity, and it doesn't really happen until late middle school. And I don't want to start teaching kids about hazing way too soon because it's not going to help them. They're going to actually imitate it and be more likely to do it. So I do agree that values is part of the issue, but it's not the whole issue. A lot of it has to do with a peer culture and a peer pressure that we all feel, adults as well as kids. So it's not just like the values of the family. I think that the interventions that we need to do has to do with reporting it, teaching kids and people to be good, what we call upstanders, bystanders who report it and who intervene appropriately and are taught how to intervene. I think that the institutions, as you said, like the colleges and the high schools, the teams, they know perfectly well what's going on, but there's a symbiotic relationship with the groups that haze, and therefore their hands are tied in some ways.
But they've got to be taught by somebody, Dr. Lipkins. They've got to be taught by somebody here, because it happens at kids who are in 12-year-old baseball players are hazing each other. It's got to be an adult who teaches them. It's not a kid who just picks it up.
And I'd love the NFL to come in and let me do a comprehensive program for them. But the point is that one person alone is not going to do it. It's not just values. It's really group behavior. It's learning how to change group behavior. And it's making the incentives big enough so that they will change it and realize that the law and the policies will, in fact, be followed as they are starting. Because the laws are very weak. The policies are often not followed. And it's not just education. It's really going to happen through lawsuits, I think. And when it's expensive enough, that's when people are going to pay attention.
Dr. Brateman, I've only got about a minute and a half left here. Are we going to get to the point, I know you're not a lawyer here, but are we going to get to the point where we have to start taking adults and parents and people who are in charge of these kids, these activities, whatever, we've got to start arresting them. We've got to start finding them responsible, and we've got to hold somebody up to shame here.
I agree, because the more we know about it, the more we hear about it, whether it's through lawsuits or complaints, the more people will take it seriously. Colleges don't want to be involved in that sort of thing. So, yes, I do think more action has to be taken for that.
What about that, Dr. Lipkins? Because I'm one of those guys right now who says if I've got somebody who's teaching my 12-year-old kid on a baseball team how to haze and how to bully, as far as I'm concerned, that's child abuse. I'll lock this guy up and let's see what happens to the next one.
Well, I don't think that the adults are teaching. It's the kids. It's a process used by groups to maintain a hierarchy or to discipline. And so sometimes the coaches know about it, kind of, but it's actually the kids that are passing on the tradition. And truthfully, a lot of parents and a lot of adults and alumni of these organizations come back and say, continue our ritual, continue to do this. So it's a much larger kind of issue, and these kinds of cultural changes do not just change by one kind of education or just PSAs. It has to be the whole group, as they say, a village. It has to be the whole country. It has to be a huge conversation and an ongoing one. And truthfully, I would like to challenge the NBA and the NBA and the NFL. If those groups started to really stop hazing, maybe the rest of the world.
Okay, there you are. We're all out of time. Dr. Lipkins, Dr. Brateman, thank you so much for joining us, ladies. We will continue this conversation. We'll take a break in MidPoint. We'll return.